All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to The Truth on the Houndsman XP Podcast Network. And today I am joined, and we're actually both in East Texas, Collins, but we're not together. We're over here. We're doing this over the phone. Me and Chris were going to try to get together this evening, but with as busy as we are, we couldn't do it. So we're just doing a phone call, even though we're a couple hours apart. But how are you, Chris Collins?
Man, I'm good. I'm hot, but I'm good. It's done got hot down here.
Oh, it ain't too bad. It's pretty nice. They said it was worse last week before I showed up.
It was. We had some 90 degrees, but I mean, it's still. We're just anticipating the hot, so it's already hot to me.
Yeah. Well, I can hear my son's phone in here somewhere going off. But anyway. Yeah, I tell you what, traveling with a small child is almost as bad, if not worse, than traveling with a dog.
Oh, hey, I'm telling you, you always got to stop to pee or something.
Oh, yeah. And they leave stuff laying around constantly,
Absolutely.
losing it, everything. But Chris, one reason I want to talk to you, and there's not many folks like us, and I'm not bragging or anything, but normally we hunt our own stock.
Yes, sir.
And we hunt at fairly high level. I can think of just a few. You're looking at Jed and Kevin Cable, and Kurt usually is packing some TrackMan stuff. But most of the guys that hunt at the high-end pro classic level, or even the big PKC open event level and stuff like that, most of them they're not raising puppies very often. And you're kind of one of the exceptions to that rule. And I know you're 3 generations off Ring, I think, last time I checked. And, of course, Ring, I seen you bred a female to him yesterday, it looked like, huh?
I did. He actually just turned 12 the 21st, and I was like, man, there probably won't be no more puppies. I have some breedings up there at Stacy Smitherman's,
Yep.
But I was like, man, there probably won't be very many more live breedings out of him. And anyway, just got a phone call out of the blue and said, hey, would you want to breed this Gyp? And I was like, absolutely.
Yeah. No, that's good. And she's a gold champion female out of what?
Well, she is out of Rackham Willie, and the mama is a gold champion female. So
I got you.
Out of Schooner River Bear, I believe.
Oh,
so,
yeah. That's
yeah,
that's stuff right
if
there.
I'm not
You look at Willie and Schooner River Bear. That's some stuff been real hot lately in the winter circle.
That's right. That's right, for sure. So I'm kind of excited about it. And like I said, hopefully get a good pup out of it, and we'll just see where it goes.
What about, because I love this part of the world. I really do. I love coming down here, even this time of year when it's hot. I enjoy my time down here. I enjoy the people, and I enjoy all that stuff. But this is not the easiest place in the world to hunt raccoons. What on earth got you started doing that in a place like, Southeast Texas?
Well, so I was born and raised here all my life. I guess my mom had married a guy whenever I was young, and he had some dogs, and I didn't know much about it. I always liked the outdoors, killing deer and hogs, whatever it could be, just being in the outdoors. Well, he had an old, I think is a red tick, and he wanted to take me out one night, I guess to kind of show off to my mom, hey, I'm taking your kid out hunting. so anyway, we go to Cleveland National Forest over here, and we go in there and we tree a coon, and I'm like, man, this is what I'm talking about. So I guess I was probably maybe 12-ish, I guess. And, I kind of got out of it after that. They ended up divorcing, so we moved on our separate ways. Well, I was sitting there at the cafe right here in Moss Hill, and Willie West was sitting there, and I'd heard that he had some dogs, and I said, man, I'm gonna get me one and maybe go hunting with him one night. Well, I call him, or I go over there to his table, and I said, hey, Willie, I said, you got I heard you're a coon hunter. He's like, yeah, I am. I said, well, what about taking me coon hunting? He said, well, I got something better for you. He said, if you'll go with me, I'll give you a dog. And I'm like, oh, man, I can't beat that. So anyway, I meet Willie in there. I've got, my deer lease I'm talking about to him, and he's getting excited like any coon hunter, that's about to pick up some more land.
Oh, yeah.
And he's like, oh, yeah, I got a dog for you, brother. And I was like, well, let's go. So anyway, he brings this black and tan female. And so this is probably my second time to ever really go.
Yeah.
And I don't know much about it. This is only about 11, 12 years ago. And anyhow, we cut loose, and the dog runs over there, and we go to the tree, and his dog's tree, and we go over and look, and the dog that he has given me is kind of like walking in a circle and lays down right by the tree. And I'm like, So I asked him, I said, hey, Willie, that dog's supposed to do that? And he goes, no, brother, she's not supposed to do that. He said, we'll find you another one. I said, well, that'll work. But yeah, so, I mean, just hunt. I mean, well, I guess to answer your question about hunting around here, it kind of started with, hunting with Willie, and it's just kind of taken off since. So that's, but like I said, I've lived right here where I've lived all my life.
That old boy that took you the first time had an English dog that went and just ran a tree to coon in the middle of the Cleveland National Forest.
I'm telling you right now, I was 12 years old. I was impressed, but to see it done now, I was thinking, man, he might have had a pretty good dog.
No kidding. That's what I was just thinking. That thing probably all right.
Yeah, I mean, I'm thinking in my head now, if I had one like that now, I might be able to do a little bit of winning.
Yeah, no kidding. So where'd you go from there? Did Willie get you another dog?
So he did. He come across another one, and he gave it to me. And I'm gonna tell you, she was a black and tan. Willie was a black and tan man at first, and if I would have known what I know now about coon hunting, she was probably I probably one of the best black and tans that I've ever been with, and I haven't been with many because they're just not in hunts like there are I guess back then compared to now.
Right.
But anyhow, they man, Josh, she was so trashy. She would run anything with four legs and a tail, and she would tree coons, and she would leave you barking. And I was like in my head, this thing is trash, man.
Yeah.
So, I just didn't like it at that time. And I was like, I've got to get rid of it. So I ended up giving her to a boy. And I bought a dog from a guy. He wanted $600 for it. And she was running and treeing. And, I mean, you look at the prices now for, a started dog running and treeing, $600 back then, 12 years ago, that was a fair price. Now you're going to pay $3,000 to $4,000 for one, needs another 30 nights on it or something.
Oh, yeah. And you're lucky to have it.
Yeah, that's right. So I had bought that Jip for $600, and I got her going pretty good. And I put her in her. She was the first dog that I went to hunt with. I went to a PKC hunt in Corrigan, and I won $110, $50 hunt. Paid $110 to win it. But I was on cloud 10.
I say, was you walking in tall cotton after that, thinking you was the greatest coon hunter ever?
Look here, I mean, I couldn't fit. I had to let the air out of the door, out of my head so I could fit in the door when I walked in. But yeah, going from her, I just kind of realized, being around the hunts, and Joe had Magic at that time.
Yeah. And
just, exceptional coon dog for around these parts, and anywhere you would have taken him. I think he'd have won, no telling how much, if the hunts were as big as they are now.
Right.
Then anyway, just hunting with kind of dogs like that, and Van Pierce had Lincoln, and just these exceptional dogs around this area. I got to realizing that mine wasn't too exceptional. Yeah, she'd run in tree coons, but she wasn't what I thought that she should be, what their dogs were. So I get to poking around, and I end up buying a dog. I sold her and bought a puppy off of Tequila Sunrise and Smoky Mountain Crook.
Yep.
And he was a freak show. At 9 months old, I had put him in a few casts. I had won about $250 with him, 2 UKC first and a AKC win, and a kid down here, Quentin Campbell, had put him in a AKC, youth state championship, and won it with him. And I ended up selling him to Ashley Hopkins, and he ended up dying. I think Ashley told me they bought him, said he was one of the closest things that he had seen since Son, that he, just acted the same way he did, was just a freak. And I think 4th of July night, he had him out there on a chain, and I think, if I'm not mistaken, firecrackers went off, and he run up the chain and come down the tree on the other side and hung himself. So didn't own the dog 2 weeks. It was just a crazy deal.
Do you ever regret selling him?
Absolutely. All the time.
Yeah.
I look back and think, man, what a pup, you know. But, you know, at that time I seen dollar signs, and I had my eye to get to where I'm at now on Ring anyway.
Yeah.
Because I had taken, his name was Deuce, I had taken him to a UKC hunt over in Deweyville, which is right on the Louisiana line. And Ring was about a year and a half, I guess, at that time. And Cody Reynolds owned him. And man, he just got out there and we cut loose. And man, Ring just has always been a good strike dog. And anyway, he just throttled me. And I'm like, man, you know, but I'm hunting a 9-month-old pup in my head. I'm going, you know, it's not that bad. Well, I had offered to buy Ring at that time. And Cody said, no, I'm not going to sell him. So I said, well, I'm just going to sell him and sell this puppy that I got. And I'm going to throw some money at him and see. So I did, and I sold him to Ashley. And anyhow, I went to another hunt, and I think I was hunting a buddy of mine's dog, and drew Ring again, and I offered him $2,500 for him. And Cody about fell out when I offered it for him. He said, man, you'd really give me that much for that dog? I said, absolutely, right now. And he said, okay. He said, let me think about it when we get to the truck. And in my head, I'm going, man, this is the real, you know, this dog is the real deal. And I'm about to steal him for $2,500.
How you sleep at night, Chris?
Now
with the fan on.
yeah, with the fan on real loud. So I sit there and I was thinking in my head, man, I'm really about to steal this dog for $2,500. This guy really don't know what he's got. And anyway, he gets up to the truck and he calls me. Man, he tells me, he said, man, I'm just not going to sell him. I said, okay. I said, well, I got it right here in my pocket. He said, I appreciate it, but I'm not going to sell him. I said, okay, well, fine. So at that time, I'm kind of down a dog. I don't have a dog, and I buy another pup, and I start hunting him. And anyway, Cody calls me up about a month later, and he says, hey, man, he said, I'm not hunting too much right now. He said, would you want to buy a Ring? I said, absolutely. I said, how much you want for him? He said, I want $3,000. I said, I'm at work right now. When I get home, I will head your way, and I'll bring you $100 bills. He said, okay, sounds good. So get home, throw the dog box in the truck, pulling out of the driveway. He calls me. Hey, man, I'm not going to sell Ring. I decided not to sell him. Oh, and I'm in my head going, and I'm like, golly, I said, well, man, I'm already, I kind of done told him a little lie. I'm like, man, I'm halfway to your house, hoping he'd feel bad for me, but he didn't, he had no remorse. So I tell him, I say, all right, man, I understand. I understand. It's no big deal. Well, this rocks on, and I keep texting and calling. Well, another day, it's probably 2 months out of the blue after that. He calls me up. He said, man, and I've done bought a dog out of Rat Attack, directly out of Rat, and I'm hunting him, and I've done some winning with him. Put him in a couple UKC and PKC hunts. Had probably $300 or $400 won with him, not a whole lot. Yeah. And Cody calls me out of the blue. And he says, hey, man, think about selling Ring again. I said, well, that's good for you. He said, because by this time, this is the second time this guy's done told me I'm going to sell you this dog. And I'm like, well, that's good. He said, how much do you think he's worth? Would you buy him? I said, man, I've got a dog. I said, I don't need him. He said, well, how much do you think he's worth? I said, Cody, that's a $5,000 dog all day long. Yeah. He said, really? I said, yep. And he says, okay, well, I'm going to sell him for that. And in my head, I'm going, man, I could really still buy this dog, and come out good on top, I feel like. So anyway, I go sell my other dog to buy Ring. Well, I call him up and said, hey, man, let's meet up. If you tell me you're going to sell him and you back out on me again, I'm just going to come take the dog out of your yard and leave the money on the porch. And he's like, no, man, I promise you, bud. I promise you I'll sell you this dog. So I said, okay. So Ring is, by this time, I guess I'm going to say a little, maybe two. He's probably 2 years old, just turned 2, I believe. Had a super stakes left and had a terrible birthday. And so anyway, he comes hunting with me. And I bring Willie West, and he's got his Slam dog, which at that time I thought was a really nice dog. And he is still, he was a nice dog. We cut loose, Ring by itself, sinks in there, boom, trees a coon. So that's good. We cut both of them together. Slam goes one way, Ring goes the other, boom, Ring trees another coon. I said, hey, this is what I'm looking for. I already knew the dog because I done drew him twice, you know.
Yep.
And anyway, he trees the third coon after that. And I said, all right. And I said, well, he said, you seen enough? I said, yeah, I've seen enough. Let's go ahead and go up to the truck. We get up there, and I said, look, Cody, I'll give you $4,000 for this dog in my pocket right now. He said, no, I guess I'll load him up and take him back to Buna. And I said, oh, he ain't bluffing, you know. So he loads him up and puts him in the back of put him in the back of his truck. He's like, pull that other 1,000 out of there, and you go ahead and buy him. So I did, and I bought him, and the rest has been history since. So
well, that ain't
I got
bad.
him at $2,000.
That's better for your conscience than $2,500.
Absolutely, yeah. I made myself pay an extra $2,500 on top of opening my fat mouth and saying he's a $5,000 dog. And at that time, Josh, heck, he's 8 years old now. So 10 years ago, or 12 years old now. Yeah, so 10 years ago, 5,000 to me was a lot of money. Especially for a dog.
Well, 10 years ago, 5,000 would get you a really, really good coon dog. And it did. It did. I mean, when you said the dog was worth $5,000, that's what he was worth. And
that's right.
To the right person, maybe it's a $10,000 dog at that time. But most of those dogs of that caliber, which there weren't a lot. I mean, it was just as hard to find a good dog back then as it is now. But back then, a good one you could get for $5,000, and today it's going to cost you 15 to 20.
That's right, for sure. But if not more.
You know what's in? Yeah, I say if not more. 75 for Apollo if you're looking.
Yeah. I mean, I could write a check if he'd take it.
Just as long as he don't cash it.
Yeah, that's right. Right. Just do it on credit.
One thing, because you're talking about that black and tan gyp you had that was wild and trashy and barked a lot, and you didn't like her, and then looking back now, you say, well, that dog was probably all right, and I wish I had that dog. Because we don't like, if we were just pleasure hunting, Chris, just as well as I do, we'd have dogs that didn't bark a bunch, and they didn't go 2 miles every time we turned them loose, and they wouldn't run no junk, and they would just be common, coon treers, and we'd have all kinds of fun. But the competition aspect changes all that.
Absolutely. I mean, and down here where I'm at, I'm going to pleasure hunt so much more, which everybody does. I say, maybe Duel and Ward and Weed and them and Joe, they're going to go, to a lot more hunts than I am. But I am going to do a lot more pleasure hunting than I am in the big hunts which I do go to them. I've got I went to the Black IP this year and done well, and to the Franklin 5,000 entry and done well there. So, I have hit some bigger hunts this year. But for the majority of my stuff, I'm pleasure hunting, 5 nights a week, and I'm not just listening to something every time its foot hits the ground barking. Pleasure hunting.
Well, that's been a big topic on the interwebs this week is babbling dogs, and I've got one right now. I'm hunting Brandy. I've tightened her up some. She's still gonna bark way too much to suit me, but
send her to me.
Yeah, you wouldn't like her either. This mud hole and crazy skunk killing thing, I'll tell you what. But anyway, I've had both. I've had dogs. Duds open. You hunted with Duds. He opened plenty. But Brandy opens a lot. Con didn't hardly say nothing. Rain didn't say much on the ground. Scent's the same way. I've hunted them both ways. And when it comes to winning coon hunts, that babbling is not as big a deal as people think it is.
If you just tree coons, man, that's all that matters. It does help, I will say, especially when, people strike them right off, off the leash, and they'll run over there. They'll run half a mile before they ever even think about getting treed and tree a coon. But, I've also seen that babbling dog that's done that also hustle enough to go tree another coon or two to help itself out. So in my mind, I'm thinking, well, yeah, it might have babbled, but it also treed coons behind itself to help that, babbling part out.
Yeah, I do think the 90-minute casts in PKC, the major events, are kind of
I hate them.
Yeah, I mean, that does kind of favor a babbling dog.
Yes, I can't stand it, because Ring and Stick, the dog I'm hunting now, they need that extra 30 minutes. I mean, they just need it. I mean, when they took that extra 30 minutes away from us, it really kind of put me in a jam with the kind of dogs I hunt, because they're more of a trailing type, going to look for their type of coon, type dog. And it just really kind of put a little bit of a, damper on me. I mean, I still do good with them, don't get me wrong, but that extra 30 minutes, I'm thinking, well, if I had another 30 minutes, what could have happened?
Well, we tailor these dogs to the rules, and we have ever since competition hunt started, before me and you were probably ever even walked this earth. And it's hard to do that when the rules change every 60 minutes.
That's right. Somebody gets upset, and here we go with a rule change.
Yeah, it's just like the leash lock, and I'm not going to say instrumental, but I was one of the loud voices against the leash lock, and then we get rid of it and it all passes. And next thing you know, 2 months later, it's gone, and we're back to having a leash lock, and we still have 90-minute casts. And I love Roger Dale. He gets mad at me all the time when he goes, every time I listen to your podcast, you just run me down. We're not doing that, Roger Dale.
No, not running you down. No. Just listen to us a little bit, RD.
Yes, exactly.
But no, I mean, my thing is, if we're going to do the 90 minutes, there needs to be no leash lock.
Right.
That it's just, I hunt, hey, if we're losing hunting ground, I understand. I mean, we, compared to up north down here, I live, so I built this house, last year, and my father-in-law owns 650 acres, and I built right in the middle of it. So I'm able to hunt 650 acres plus the land next to me, which is about 1,100. I'm blessed to be able to go out my back door and cut a dog loose. But that being said, there are places, around here and around up north that aren't this big. I mean, up north, this would be huge,
Right.
And I do know there are places that are losing hunting ground. And if that's the case, and we do have to go to the 90 minutes and stay at the 90 minutes, we do need to make it no leash lock, in my opinion, just because of that babbling dog, or, a break. I mean, at the Super Stakes this year, I stayed on the leash for, I think, 40 minutes on Tuesday night. So, I mean, I couldn't do nothing for, 40 minutes.
Yeah, and that was one of the reasons in the long run the leash lock is going to get us dogs that are not so wild. They're not, spread apart. Maybe they'll tree together a little bit, because the name of the game is to win. It always has been. And then with no leash lock, a dog that'll cover out of the truck, maybe cover one other coon and tree its own, is going to win a good vast majority of the time. With the leash lock on, 3 dogs pile into one tree and they're all struck for, 50, 75 and a quarter. Well, that dog that's struck for 100 that floats through their 2 miles and gets treed and locks them all up till he gets there, and now you're in a big deficit with less time to do anything with.
Yes, sir. I mean, and I was kind of at that deal. I went to Louisiana to a pro classic this past weekend. And I mean, talking about dog, not saying nothing bad about the guy's dog by any means, but I cut loose. I strike for 100, tree for 100. I got a coon. She comes and backs me for 50. She struck for 50. We pull off of there. Another dog's working a track. She goes over there and trees, and the dog that just got off the tree with me pulls over there and trees another, trees with that dog for 75.
Yeah.
To me, those dogs like that are just so hard to beat, and it aggravates me to no end. But in my head, I'm like, hey, if that's what that guy likes to hunt, there's nothing I can say, because that's his dog and that's how he likes to hunt, maybe, and that's totally up to him, and that's totally fine. But in my head, I'm hating to lose like that. But hey, it's coon hunting, is part of it. You got to take your medicine and go.
Well, one thing about those dogs like that, they're going to back a slick, they're going to back a possum, they're going to back a lot of things, just to back to, and they're going to get in trouble. But, you get in a coon treeing contest with a bunch of coon dogs, they're hard to beat. The trick is getting one that'll back a coon and nothing else.
Well, I wish that she would have went and backed on a possum or a slick, but she didn't,
she drew a bunch of coon dogs is what she did.
Yeah. Mine, treed that coon, and then he wanted to mess around the rest of the cast. Yeah. I mean, he just, I blame it on him. I was telling my buddy on the way home, hey, I tree a coon, right out of the truck. Yeah, that's great. And he looked good doing it, but he had 40 minutes to go tree another coon.
Yeah,
you know,
he should have treated another one.
You know, that's his fault for not getting it done, not mine.
Yeah. No, I agree. Well, that's enough rule rant, Colin. So let's go back. Let's go back to dogs. You
barred list.
Yeah, no kidding. You got Ring bought, and you gave a good chunk of change for him. But that was the dog. It sounds like to me that you wanted this whole time.
It was, absolutely. I had, like I said, had my eye on him from, the first minute that I drew him in a hunt.
Yeah. And then did you immediately go to Winnings's Ring, or did you guys have like a feeling out process with the new handler, new owner, new all that stuff?
So let me tell you, I spent the $5,000 on him, and I buy this dog, and about a week into it, I call the guy that owns him. I'm like, hey man, this dog's not working out. He don't want to go hunting for me. He was at that time, I guess he had never been nowhere but Cody's house. And I'm like, man, is there anything that I can do to get this dog back to you? And, he gives me the old one-liner. I've already spent that money. Yeah. I'm like, okay, well, that's fine. I'm going to keep him. Well, it took about, I'm going to say probably a good month. I mean, he would run in tree coons, but not like I seen him doing these hunts,
Yeah.
And it took me a good month for him to get used to me and me going out there every day and, loving on him and petting on him. And this dog is not a shy dog by no means, but he just had to know that, hey, I've never been to this guy's house before. He's not going to go out here and kill me,
Yeah.
So it took me a good month, but yes, there was about a month, that 30-day, trial, I guess you would say, between me and him that I wanted to pinch his head off many a times.
And that kind of surprises me too, because Ring's won with multiple handlers. You've let other people handle Ring a lot of times for you while you've been hunting something else, and the dog's done well and looked good. But he probably was he staying at their house at any of that time, or was he always at your house?
He did. I would, so Chad Doolin would take him, because I had, just the way my work schedule was, nationals was kind of always out for me. And he would take him to the nationals for me. He'd win a couple early rounds and just get beat late. Then he took him to the truck hunt for me. I got a truck ticket with him. He got him in the top 16 of the truck hunt. Just couldn't get it done. Joe has hunted him. Chance Lynch has hunted him. John, this buddy of mine that is just now getting into it. I mean, Ring turned 12 a few days ago, and I've been letting John hunt him because he's starting to learn, and he wanted a good dog. And I said, hey, we'll make you a good dog. I said, until then, you need to learn with a dog that is just going to run striking tree coons and be by itself. So all the hard part is out of it for you. It's just easy. And man, I didn't think that Ring, he hadn't been out of the pen since the Lone Star, and we pulled him out of the pen, and I hunted him a few nights before the Lone Star because I thought I was going to go up there and, maybe hunt him a few nights up there. And anyway, John takes him, and he starts hunting him, and he's like, man, I really like this dog. He trees a lot of coons. I said, well, let's go put him in a hunt. Well, before I know it, John's done won $1,000 this year and with this dog. And I mean, I'm like, well, heck, I'm over here struggling to win casts sometimes, and Ring's over there. John's got Ring winning casts. I'm like, why don't you give me my dog back, man?
Yeah, no kidding. That's hard too when you think a dog's, it ain't like Ring's retired. You've been hunting him. You just got him in. Didn't you get him in at the Black Eyed Peas? You was hunting him down there, wasn't you? Or was you hunting that pup out of him?
I was hunting Stick out.
Yeah, I was Stick. When's because I seen you get Ring in here last winter sometime somewhere.
Yeah, I got him in. I got him in at Cleveland, like a little pro classic there.
That's what I was thinking, probably.
Yeah, and then Stick really started coming along, so I really just kind of put him on the back burner. And every time I show up somewhere, with him, everybody's like, I thought you said he was retired, because the last hunt I put him in, every time I go, this is his last one, boys. Yeah. This is the last one. Show up to another one. I thought you said that was his last one. I was like, well, this might be it. But it's just hard to get up old dogs.
Well, I mean, it's hard whenever you're starting that. You not that you're starting Stick's one quite a bit too, but you got Stick, but you've got a consistent cast winner sitting right over there in the kennel that doesn't take a whole bunch of hunting through the week. You know him like the back of your hand. You've been around him for dang near a decade. So it is hard to take a different dog when you want to win.
It is, and I bought that dog when I bought him. He finished out to a grand night before he was 2. And I do, commend, and give Cody all the credit for that part. But he was, at a 2-year-old pup, he was still so green, in a lot of ways. I took him. He was a Grand Night, and he had, I think, $110 on him whenever I bought him, because Cody didn't do much PKC hunting.
Yeah.
And now, he's, of course, he's a Grand Night. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, I'd have to go or call. But I think with John putting that 1,000 probably on him, he's probably won about 25,000 now. I've won with him. And that's, that's a lot of hard hunting. That's not these big hunts and stuff like that. His biggest win came down there in Buffalo that year that we held that the one that Jed put on down there.
Yeah,
and
the shootout.
Yeah, the shootout, yep. And that was his biggest win that I won with him. That was a $5,000 win right there. Yep. So, everything else has been, little small pro classics now that they're starting, and then $100 or $50 entries and, little added purses.
Yeah. When did, because, I tell you what he reminds me, and we talked about Magic earlier, and I was there when Magic made Platinum Champion that night. He beat old Duds over at the Lone Star.
Yeah, he knocked me out.
Yeah, he got in, and I what did he have? He just had like 3 1/4 or something like that. It was a real rough night.
No. That sucker had 175 plus, and I had 175 plus, and he had 200 circle.
Yeah, he did have 200 circle out of the truck. That was when Duds climbed that tree.
Oh, yeah.
Duds was up the tree, and I was getting him handled when they went over there to score that circle tree. And then we recut, and he got struck for 75 and treed that coon for 100. That's what it was.
Y'all were the last cast to come in, because I'm in my head going, well, I should get in. There's one more cast out. And then I asked Joe, I said, what'd you have? And he said, I had 175. I said, me too. He goes, but I had 200 circle. What'd you have? I said, not 200 circle. And he goes, 90 platinum. And I was proud for him. Yep. He was so excited on that old dog.
Well, when I think of Magic and Ring, they got kind of a similar career trajectory as far as they took. Magic never had a bunch of huge wins where he was bringing home 10, 12 grand at a time or nothing like that. And Ring was the same way. It just seemed like, you guys went to a lot of hunts and you won a lot of money, but it was a lot of cast wins. I mean, a lot of cast wins.
Them poor dogs, if they could talk and tell you how many miles are on their, little legs and feet, and just the competition side of it to win. I think Magic probably ended up with about 20 to 21,000, if I'm not mistaken. He might have been a little bit more, but Ring at 24, 25,000. That takes a lot to win that.
Yeah, $110 at a time.
Yeah, $110 at a time, and like I said, a few little here and there, added purses. At the Lone Star, he would always show out at the Lone Star, but really, it's just kind of one of them things that, like, man, that's a lot of hunting and not a lot of money won. If you look at it now, you could win that in one night.
Yeah, exactly. What about us pups? When did you get your first set of Ring pups, and when did they hit the ground?
Are you using OnX Maps while you're out running your hounds? I know I do. There are all kinds of features within OnX in that app that allows me to mark den trees. It allows me to mark terrain features. It keeps me from floating my hat on those deep stream crossings, so I can mark those shallow places where I can cross streams. I use it all the time, whether I'm east or west. In the east, property is chopped up into smaller chunks, and when a dog gets through the country, I can actually look on OnX, dial it in, see who owns that property, and plan my route in and out of there to retrieve my hound. When I'm hunting in the west, same thing. All the terrain features are included on OnX Maps, and I can plan my route. I don't always have a choice of where my hounds end up, but I can always depend on OnX to get me in and out of there as quickly and as easily as possible. You can save 20% on your next purchase at OnX when you go to onxmaps.com, and at checkout you enter the code HXP20. You will get 20% off of your next subscription. When you go to houndsmanxp.com, click on the sponsor tab and join us on Patreon, you will receive a code to get 30% off of your next subscription of OnX. Know where you stand with OnX.
So, when I had got him, Cody had already bred him because, and he had bred him to a female. And so he had one living pup out of him. But when I had got him, I realized, hey, this is the kind of dog that could, as a coon dog, this is what I've been looking for. I think this dog is kind of what everybody would want in a dog. So I'm gonna breed him. A lot of people pick on him because he is little. 50 pounds soaking wet, and that probably has stirred. I do know a lot of people have called me, and talked to me about him. Like, man, if he was a little bit bigger, I'd breed to him. But I'm just scared that he'll throw that in his pups, which it never bothered me. And I was telling that buddy of mine, John, maybe today or yesterday, I really truly believe Ring has held up so well and acts still like a 2-year-old because of the size he is.
Yeah.
If he was a big 80, 90 pound dog, I don't think that he would be able to withhold and withstand what, like I said, going to a hunt last weekend with him. And, so to me, he's a little bit on the short side, but that had deterred a lot of people from, breeding to him, but it never did me. So a buddy of mine, that lived right down the road, he had a female, and she was pretty nice. He said, well, I tell you what, let's make that cross, and let's make this cross and see what we get. And I said, okay. So we did, and I ended up getting 8 puppies out of that litter, and we all sent them, they scattered out, everybody wanted one, so they all got scattered out. Well, I got the one that wouldn't run in tree. Everybody else, it seemed like they wanted to start good, and mine's over there looking at a coon like, I don't know what this thing is, and I'm scared to death of it. And I'm like, that's about right. So anyway, Willie ended up with one, and he called him Banjo. Well, he was telling me how trashy this puppy was, how he'll run everything with 4 legs and a tail. I said, well, heck, let me have him. And anyway, the puppy that I had at the time, I said, you know what? I got a puppy. I'm not going to worry about it. I'm just going to try to hunt him. Well, I got him running tree, and so I told Willie, I said, look, just sell him. I'll help you sell him. I ain't got time for him. And so anyway, I helped Willie sell this dog, so I'm hunting mine. And anyway, this guy calls me that he's sold him to. And he says, hey, man, I got this pup, and I'm just wondering if you would be interested in buying him back. I said, well, I don't know nothing about him. What is he? I know he's out of Ring, but, what kind of dog is he? He's a good strike dog, going to be by himself. Tells me all this line of stuff that, everything you want to hear, especially being out of your dog.
Yeah.
And I'm like, man, absolutely, how much do you want for him? And I don't even remember the price, but we were in a group text, and I was texting, I think it was like me, Jason Klum, Caldwell, Joe, a bunch of us, Clint Berger. We were all in a group text. Klum texted me out of the blue. He said, hey, I want to buy that dog. And so anyway, I get Klum hooked up with this guy on this dog. He gets him down here. Klum starts calling him tough. And so anyway, at this point, Klum's got him for about 2 weeks. Same thing. Klum called duty, so trashy. He's probably not going to make it around my house. He might not eat another bowl of dog feed. And I said, well, let me take him, see if I can do anything with him. So anyway, I take him, same thing. The guy that told me all the stuff that you want to hear about your dog, that he's running in tree and he's doing good, none of that was true.
Were you surprised, though? Because every time someone calls me with a dog for sale and they start telling me how good it is, I immediately don't believe them.
I just almost hang up the phone on them.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah. But so we're sitting there, and Klum's like, yeah, I'll meet you with him. So I meet Klum with him. And anyway, I get this dog, and he's doing the same thing Klum's telling me. Man, he'll run anything. He'll tree possums. He'll do it all. And I'm like, so I guess it was one of his last nights that I had made my mind up, like, dude, you better get it together, or you're about to go meet Jesus. I'm sitting there, and I take him to a feeder, and he just runs over there and falls treed. I'm like, man, he's treed something. And maybe it's a possum. I don't know. I go over there, and he's got a coon in the next tree. He's missed this coon, but I'm excited that this puppy even, wanted to tree a coon. So I shoot the coon out.
Yeah.
And it was like a light switch.
I would have shot that coon out too.
It was. And I did. And it, like I said, a light switch flipped on this dog. And from then on, he just turned into, Josh, a lot of people don't believe me when I tell, but this, and I've hunted in a lot of these hunts, but he is by far, and I've got a 2-year-old in stick right now, but he is by far the best 2-year-old that I've ever seen go coon hunting. He turned into a freak. So I called Clom and I tell him what happened, and Clom's like, hey, well, let's just go in partners with him. I said, hey, sounds good to me. So couldn't ask for a better partner than Jason.
Yeah.
And super good guy on that. We'd go to a hunt, we'd split it, whatever it would be. He was great. We go to the Texas State hunt, UKC Texas State hunt. He's like 14 months old or something like that at the time. Goes up there and wins it. And I'm like, fluke deal. That's crazy. He wins the UKC State hunt. Bunch of dogs there.
Yeah.
So that was his first kind of big win, that I thought, well, hey, he's all right, but maybe he just got lucky. Well, then all of a sudden I start putting him in these PKC hunts, and he just starts, demolishing these dogs that, he would just tree coons where, a lot of coons would, a lot of dogs would run by. And anyhow, so I take him to the super stakes. Actually, we had him qualified to go to the nationals. And he ended up getting cut on a cast one night by a hog. He was treed on a tree. He had first on it. I have this coon. I win the hunt. He's treed. We're walking to him, and all of a sudden I hear him, "Burr!" I'm like, man, what was that? And I see him get down off the Garmin, and he starts to come to me. And I'm like, man, this dog don't ever come to me. Anyway, he goes and trees another coon. I go to look at him, and he's got a big hole in his gut. A hog had run by. I guess he had stirred up a pack of hogs, and it cut him. Well, so we missed the nationals with him that year, and we had to lay him up a little bit. So I get him over there to the right after that. Super Stakes is coming around, and we end up doing really good at the Super Stakes. Got him in the final 7. I tell people how bad my luck is. There was a final 7. Everybody draws heads up. I draw the 3 dog. That's just my luck on how that kind of stuff goes. Knowing what I know now as a handler, I should have struck the dog for 100, but I was kind of scared. I'd never been that deep in a hunt, in that kind of, a big hunt like that.
Yeah. He
leaves out of there screaming, and I'm like, man, I ain't striking him, because if I do and he shuts up, I'm going to be in a bind, and I'm already, I'm going to be sitting, with a 100 pump right out of the truck. So anyway, I strike him for 50. They end up, their 2 dogs bark, Tracy Thompson and who else was on that cast with me? Tracy and Bobby Burden.
Yeah.
And man, their dogs go to screaming out of there, bam, bam, strike. I'm like, well, I guess strike me now. I could have toted the 100 all along. But anyway, I get beat and come back home and put him in another UKC state championship hunt. This is the following year, and win it. So he's a 2-time Texas state champion. He's done one right around 7,000, and this dog has not been put in a whole lot of hunts.
Yeah.
And he ended up dying of, I think what happened, I went out there one night, I treated 4 singles with him, come home, and he just goes to raising Cain in the pen. I'm like, what in the world? I go out there, and his gut is bloated up in his chest, and it has collapsed his lung.
Yeah.
And so anyway, I had to put him down and all that stuff. So it was just a bad deal. But that was my first pup out of ring that really kind of done something for me and kind of made me realize that this dog really can reproduce.
What about Stick? How did you come about him?
So Waylon Pierce and Van owned Bella, his mama. They had got her from Stephen Dunn up in Arkansas. And I was actually talking to Stephen about that at the Super Stakes this year. He was wondering about her. And Waylon and Van said, hey, I'd like to get a pup out of ring. Let me, I got this Jip right here. Would you want to breed her? I'm like, absolutely, I'll breed her. And she's out of Zeb 3 and Brendan Tony's old Homer dog's dad.
Yeah.
And so anyway, I get her, I breed her. she was really a nice little coon dog. She done a lot of good things for me whenever I was hunting her, kind of letting Ring just relax. And, he was semi-retired, but I was kind of still pouting because, Tough is dead. I don't have another dog. But anyhow, I get Bella and start hunting her. She has these puppies, and I think she had 5 or 6 of them in their Stick. So I end up selling Stick actually when he was just a little old puppy to Lake and Reynolds. And the dog that I had kept, the puppy I kept out of it, he had got parvo. And I said, well, he didn't make it. So I begged Lakin for this puppy back, thinking, man, I need to get a puppy because this might be one of the last ones at this time. I'm thinking out of Ring, he's getting old, and I just need to find something out of him. And anyway, she ends up being nice enough and selling him back to me. So I ended up getting him back. And so he'd been at my house since he has been about 4 months old. And now we've won, I guess about 19,000, right around 19,000. And he's a night champion. So he's been a little blessing to me too.
Yeah. How old is Sticks now?
He will be 3 in June.
Are you going to raise any litters out of him?
Probably not. He's not what he is. A nice dog, and he's by himself. The one thing I don't like about Stick sometimes is he's hit or miss on his strike. And I mean, he's my dog. I'll talk about him all day, and a lot of people might talk about him anyway. But 1 minute he might strike, like the other night he strikes for 100, and then there's some nights he strikes for 50. And I'm like, he's inconsistent sometimes, getting struck good to me. And I'm, the way some of the things that he does that Ring don't do, I don't like, and I'm like, I don't know if I'd ever breed him. Some people have asked me, would you breed Stick? And I'm like, man, I just don't know if I would or not, and to sit back and think, I'm like, well, that would kind of just carry on the little, the Ring name, then I get to thinking, well, maybe I would breed one female. I'm up in the air about it, Josh. But if I do, he'll be 7, 6, 7, 8 years old before I ever even think about putting him on a female.
Yeah. How many pups are out there out of Ring?
I called the other day, and there are 80 pups showing out of him. And if I was a betting man, like me and Joe told you when we done our last podcast, I would bet there probably aren't but 15 maybe that are alive out of all that 80.
That's just like Trader when it shows he's got 40-some pups. And, by the T2 got blasto, Quick fell out of a tree, a couple of them got run over. The one that littermate sister Descent and Shock and them that I raised, she gets out of the kennel one day, and there ain't but probably 20 pups out of Trader that were ever made it to adulthood. When you're hunting these dogs like we're hunting them, it's hard to keep them all alive, I can promise you.
I've had more people call me, hey, he got snake bit, or hey, he got out of the pen and got ran over. Tough's littermate, really nice little dog named Stack. I actually owned him for a little bit too, and then I sold him. But, guy calls me one day and all upset. I'm like, what's wrong, man? He's like, man, he said Stack got run over. I'm like, well, I'm in my head thinking, that ain't nothing new with these Ring puppies. They're a road magnet or a snake bite magnet, and something has killed them.
Well, that's the thing. When you throw hard-going dogs, they're constantly in trouble.
That's right.
Constantly in trouble. Especially the Trader stuff that don't ever come to you when you call it.
Hey, that makes it nice when you call and they just look at it and just get further.
Yeah, that's right.
But yeah, I mean, it shows that he's got, like, I think 80, and like I said, maybe 20 something, or if that, I would be willing to bet if that are alive. Like I said, I made Stick a night champion. There's a pup out down here, out of him right now. He's won about 2,500, and he's a grand night. Charles Wood has one. That's one. She doubled up at the Super Stakes a couple years ago. She's a night champion, working her way towards a grand. There's a few down here, but all in all, if these guys would have hunted these, puppies out of him, there's no telling what this little dog could have probably thrown. I tell people a lot, he's, in my eyes, one of the most underrated stud dogs. I mean, I'm not even considering him a stud dog because that's not what he is, but because I just bred a few females. But, the puppies that are the females that he has bred, there's always been 2 or 3 out of that litter that has just been exceptional, and the exceptional ones end up getting ran over, and the other ones that don't make nothing could get out in the road and play in the road, and 18-wheelers pass by and nothing happens to them.
Yeah, it'll swerve them and run into your kennels and kill your good ones.
Hey, that's exactly right. You can't kill a sorry one. I don't care what you do, but that one gets over there and sniffing a track by the side of the road, the guy sneeze and run off the road and hit it.
Yeah. Well, that's one of the reasons I was asking that is because if you don't breed sticks, what are the odds of you getting a grand pup to ring? If there's not a whole bunch of them available.
So I know I had talked to and there's not really. So I talked to a guy. D. Wilkerson has Boogie. Him and Tyler Phillips own him together now, and I could get one out of Boogie. But my next thing is I kind of wanted a grand pup off of him. I wanted to get a good female off the ring, and there is a couple. Charles has a nice one. Glenn Tosh up north, he has a really nice female. She just hadn't been putting a whole lot of hunts. And I was thinking about, breeding her to either goose or to rodeo or something like that, something hot right now, and getting me a good pup off of that and kind of saying, well, here's my next generation of ring.
Right.
But I have not hunted any. I mean, I've hunted nothing but a ring dog since I bought ring 10 years ago, and he has blessed me. He's paid a mini truck note for me, a car note, house note, all this good stuff, and I've been able to hunt puppies out of him that's been able to do the same thing.
Yeah, the old man, which I just buried Duds last week, and he was so aggravating. And you hunted with him. He had all that talent, but he was just aggravated me to death. And every time I'd see him, and I'd think, I'm really not going to feel bad when that dog dies. but he did, and I did feel bad. It's not just the hunts that they win or all that stuff, but if it wasn't for Duds, I never would have met Finley. I never would be down here at camp in East Texas.
So many you make with them, dog.
Exactly, and it's just they do change your life, and it sounds like Ring has changed yours for the better. And it's hard to keep it going. We're 5 generations off Skipper now, but I'm in the same situation you are with Con only having 1 litter on the ground and 1 male pup alive. And I'm thinking, do I want to breed him again and keep that going, or do I want to kind of go a different direction? And it's difficult sometimes, but you just got a deep appreciation for them, especially when they get the age and ring.
It is, and and when I bred this female yesterday, I was in my head going, thinking in my head why he's I'm waiting on him to get done. I'm thinking, this is probably it, bud. You might as well enjoy it, because this is probably 1 or 2 more. I've got another guy going to breed another one when she comes in, but heck, that might be next year, and I might have to use a straw of that semen, But like I said, I really do, because I know what kind of dog. He's not the best dog in the world. I mean, I've been beat by some of the sorriest, and I've beat some of the best. He's been good to me, and like I said about that other guy earlier, we'll hunt what we like, and I like him, and I like what he has done for me, and that being said, what you talked about with Duds, how many people I've met just along the way with him. I never would have considered Joe Manning my best friend, and met Chad Doolin or met Chance Lynch, and all these guys that have hunted him, and met all these people along the way, if it wasn't for buying Ring at the time. He just kind of put me in a different position where I was when I started out hunting, and that's kind of where I want to stay at. And with his pups, I want to keep doing the same thing.
Well, I hope you do, Chris, and I wish you continued success with Sticks and Ring, and I hope you get. I think you should breed Sticks, even if he's not exactly perfect. I know we're always looking for perfection, and you're looking for that rule or that meter stick when it comes to, his daddy and stuff. But there ain't nothing wrong with stick, and I think he'd reproduce just fine as well.
And I do too. And I've talked to people about it. And like I said, there's nothing wrong with this dog. I'm my dog's biggest critics, really, in a way. When I think they should do this and I think they should do that, and they don't do it. Willie West told me a long time ago. He said, they're not robots, brother. He said, we want this out of them, but that don't mean that they're going to be able to do it every night. Just because it's dark don't mean it's a good night of coon hunting.
Yeah.
And I said, you're right. But, the way Stick is bred, he is bred, you can't beat his breeding. And he's got a good mouth. He's got, he's got the drive. He's got the coons when he trees. He's going, just everything about him. He's got the looks. He's got the size. Heck, he probably weighs 70 pounds compared to Ring's 50.
Yeah.
But he probably would reproduce, and I probably will, eventually, like I said, breeding, but it's going to be no time soon, because I still do have 7 breedings off a Ring, and I'm not just going to burn them up within the first year or two to get a pup off of him. But I'll always have that to kind of fall back on. But I probably will breed him down the line, but no time soon.
Well, all right, Chris, let's wrap her up. Thank you for joining me and taking the time to do this, too. And maybe next time you get up to camp, we can do a little hunting next time I'm around. But this will be the latest in the summer, earliest in the summer. I ain't coming back till it gets cold. I'll just say that.
Well, hey, just come on down here. I mean, the other night we got all that rain, and I counted 3 alligators down here in this creek that runs by my house. So come on down here and we'll hunt and, have a good time.
I don't care about the alligators, and the snakes don't bother me, but I ain't dealing with these mosquitoes at 90 degrees no more.
Hey, Josh, look here. I know we're wrapping up, but we probably got, and it's been dry this past week, thank God, but the week before, the 2 weeks before, we have probably gotten 10 to 12 inches of rain just down here at my house. And when you get in them woods, you can't even, you got to cover your nose, they're just all over you.
Yeah.
The mosquitoes are terrible right now. And I hate putting off on more than anybody in the world, because it seems like you put it on and you're instantly sweating to death. But right now I have started putting it on because I don't want the West Nile.
Yeah, I don't want it either. I've been down here for a couple nights. We hog hunted. We ain't coon hunted yet. We're going to go tonight. I think Bobby's coming over. But I'm not looking forward to it. It just snowed on us a couple weeks ago at the house.
Well, I wish y'all would send some of that down here. It's just such a distance from up there to down here, with the hunting and with the mosquitoes. And we talk about it all the time. It's always a big argument over the internet, hunting the south, hunting the north, but yeah, right now the mosquitoes, and y'all, where you're at, y'all really don't have the gators right now. Like I do down here. And I'm an hour and 40 minutes from you, but they are thick down here.
Yeah. See, we got a little 4-footer right down here below camp, but he's just a pet.
Yeah, I was gonna say he's a cute little.
He's just a pet. He might be able to swallow a little brandy, but I think he'd have a hard time with Angel, so I ain't too worried.
I hear you. Well, yeah, y'all kill all them hogs and kill all the mosquitoes while you're at it.
All right, Chris. Hey, thanks for joining me, buddy, and we'll get together and we'll have a hunt soon.
Yes, sir. I sure appreciate it.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, that is Mr. Chris Collins, and this is the Houndsman XP Podcast Network. We thank you for listening.